down to the lagoon by my house because I thought, oh, this will be a beautiful spot to film. Nice little nature spot. Yeah. There's a 70% chance of rain right now. Damn it, somebody's at my spot. This is the best parking spot where that truck is. Ugh. Well, this is the beach. Over there is the lagoon. There's that black truck that I was saying got my spot. I like that little spot because one, nobody can park around you and it's like your own little cave. And the topic that I'm gonna be talking about today, I don't really wanna be around people. I kinda wanted my own little space. Although now it's thundering and like I told you guys, it's about to rain. It's just gonna end up pouring on me. So I'm just gonna film in my car. I have been wanting to film this video. Can you see my boobs? Sometimes my nipples pop out of this. I have been wanting to film this video for months, since my last video. Honestly, I can't remember the last time I posted a video, but it's been a little while. In my most recent video, I kind of was talking about goals and my process of setting goals. And I believe I mentioned in that video that I am not drinking anymore. I can't remember exactly if I had said that. I know if I did say it, I didn't go in depth, because I wanted to film a whole video, and that's what this is gonna be, on why I stopped drinking. I don't really know if this is appropriate, but I'm just gonna say like a little trigger warning. I was addicted to alcohol, so I'm gonna be talking about this from an alcoholic's perspective. If you feel like you could be triggered by the topic of alcohol, I don't know, please just don't watch this. I'm just gonna start, I don't really know where to start. My initial goal was to not drink for the year of 2022. I was like, let me give myself a sense of control and not drink for a year. And if I can go a whole year without drinking, then I really don't have a problem. That's not the case. I do have a problem, and that was just my mind kind of, you'll hear me say like my mind playing tricks on me. My mind kind of playing tricks on me to give myself this false sense of control when in reality I have no control over alcohol. After the first 2 weeks that I stopped drinking, I had no intention to go to AA meetings. My goal was just to stop drinking. But then the universe just put these people in my life that were sober and that were going to AA meetings, and they were just these really nice, funny, outgoing people that I was starting to meet. And it got brought up that I was sober for the year initially, and they invited me to go to meetings with them. Now I've been going to meetings for about 2.5 months, and since going to these meetings and hearing people share stories of exactly what I went through or exactly what's going on in my head made me realize that, like I said, I'm creating this false sense of control. My new goal is just to stay sober forever. I have no intention to go back to drinking. And the reasons why are because, like I said, I have no control over it at all. In the past, I've taken like a week off of drinking to give myself that sense of control. There was a point that I was drinking so much and I knew I had to get a grasp over it. It wasn't even that I was drinking so much. I was drinking all day, every day, and to feel like I was above alcohol and alcohol wasn't above me, I told myself, I used to nanny these kids, and at the time I wasn't nannying them, but I told myself, dude, get back to nannying these children just so you can't drink before 5 p.m. That was already a sign that like I didn't have control if I had to find something else to basically force me not to drink before 5 p.m. But back then, that made me feel like I had control by making that decision. Really weird thinking. I have a few moments like that where I've just had some really weird and distorted thinking to justify drinking. The biggest reason why I had to stop drinking was because I just became somebody that I didn't recognize. I was drinking excessively for about 3.5 years. And when I say excessively, in the beginning, it was kind of fun because it was like a newly fed addiction where, with my experiences, as addictions continue to be fed, they're not fun. They don't stay fun. They actually become very miserable. But in the beginning, it was kind of fun. I was just drinking socially with friends, and I started drinking after I turned 21. Like, I started drinking a lot after I turned 21. I drank a little bit in high school, And the times that I did drink in high school, I drank to get completely wasted, but I didn't drink that often in high school. Probably because it wasn't as easily accessible for me back then. What really set the momentum for my drinking tendencies after I turned 21 was just basically my desire to distract myself, and that's where all of my addictive behaviors have come in. They've always played a distraction, whether it was self-harm or like sexual relationships with other people, or smoking weed all day long, or drinking alcohol every single day. All of these addictive behaviors have all been to distract myself, because for some reason I've had a very difficult time like just sitting with myself and being real with myself about like what I've been through in my past, who I've hurt in my past, how I've hurt, and stuff like that. Like, it was just too much for me to handle, so I never handled shit. I just covered it up. Back to where I was, started drinking after I turned 21, like started drinking every day. In the beginning, it was kind of fun. It was kind of like encouraged for me to drink because I did just turn 21 and I was doing it mostly with my friends. But after a few months, probably after like 3 months of doing that, like partying, I started drinking by myself every day, just at home. And that's when it got scary, because I wouldn't leave my house because I couldn't drive anywhere because I was wasted. I was blowing through money that I wasn't making because I had no motivation to work. After probably another 6 months, so this is 9 months into my drinking, that's when I was like, okay, I need to watch these kids again. I stopped watching them before I started drinking because I got really busy just running my business. I am very blessed to be an entrepreneur and to have success and to be able to do what I want. It is a blessing, but at the time that I was drinking, it was almost a curse. Like, not to seem ungrateful, but my job working for myself enabled me to drink every day because I didn't have to check in with a boss. I didn't have to clock in, you know? So I wasn't busy anymore. Like I said, I stopped watching the kids because I got so busy with my business, but once I started drinking, motivation left me and I was no longer as busy as I was with my business. So I had time. And that's when I reached out to their parents and just like inquired about potentially watching the kids again, to give me something that like held me accountable to not drink before 5 p.m. because I was literally drinking alcohol for breakfast. I swear, like, it was beautiful timing. These kids I used to watch have had nannies their whole life. So when I reached out, I didn't expect to get my job back with them, essentially. I honestly just asked them, like, hey, if you ever need anybody to watch the kids on a random day, please let me know. But they actually needed somebody for Monday through Friday, which is what I used to do for them, Monday through Friday from 2 p.m. to about 5 p.m. And obviously I couldn't drink before 2 p.m. because I couldn't, okay, the thing with like alcoholic tendencies and being an alcoholic, we can never just have one drink and then be good. Like, I would drink to get fucked up. I would drink to get blacked out. Don't know why, that's just the way my brain works. So I obviously couldn't drink before 2 p.m. because I couldn't put the kids at risk. That was the first time I admitted to myself that I had a problem, but the idea of quitting drinking was not an option to me. I justified drinking, and I didn't seek to get sober back then because I thought to myself, at the time I was probably still 21, maybe 22. Back then I was thinking to myself, I'm only 22, like, this is normal. Like, this is what people do when they're 22. That is not normal. Blacking out every day is not normal, Elizabeth. Also, I'm only sharing this story, 1, to document for myself, and 2, to just normalize talking about this, especially in addressing this issue as a younger person, because I'm only 24. Anyways, I'm watching the kids, I'm not drinking till after 5 p.m., but, and this was another sign that I was just not being honest with myself about the reality of my situation. I was like counting down the hours every day, Monday through Friday till 5 p.m. I remember at 5 p.m. heading home from watching them and like being the happiest I have been or had been throughout the entire day because I just knew it's 5 p.m. I'm gonna go get fucked up. And like that made me so happy. And what's twisted to me, like I said in the beginning when I started drinking, it was kind of fun. But as the behavior progressed, it wasn't fun anymore. So it's not like I was happy because I was looking forward to having a good time. I was happy because it was almost like the inside of my skin, like underneath of my skin, was like itching for alcohol, and that itch was going to be relieved. Okay? I was at home crying to myself about the shit that I didn't want to admit to myself, like I told you, the shit that I was trying to cover up. Eventually the alcohol wasn't really covering it up anymore. I just became a drunk that was extremely depressed, that was, I don't know, it was just downhill. Like, I was just going downhill, you guys. A few months went by. I was still drinking every day after 5 p.m. though, but then I reevaluated and I told myself, like, you really should only drink Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. Those are the only days I could justify drinking on the weekend. So it took me a few months, but I got to the point where I was only drinking 3 days a week. I think I did that for either a few weeks or a few months. I can't really remember because this was a few years ago. But without me even realizing, eventually I went back to drinking every day. I don't even know how it got to that point. COVID happened. I stopped watching the kids because COVID happened. And the beginning of COVID, I mean, we were just like all inside, like our houses, we couldn't leave, you know? So I was definitely drinking all day long. But somewhere in the beginning of COVID, within the first like few months that COVID became a thing, I did take a 1 month break of drinking. But again, as soon as I got back to drinking, it went to drinking every day, all day again. And sometimes I hear people share in meetings that they also can relate to wanting that sense of control and taking breaks from alcohol to gain that sense of control, and it always going back to what it was, if not worse. Most of the time it was worse. I'm living like that for a few more months. Eventually I find my way out to Hawaii. I moved to Hawaii and I told myself, okay, this is a fresh start. Like, let me have control over this. I can do this. I'm also very prideful. Like, everything I've struggled with in the past, like self-harm, for example, was a very big problem for me. I cut that cold turkey, and not everybody can do that. I don't know how I did that, but I thought I could kind of do that with alcohol. But I'm kind of like, this thought just came to my head. I'm also realizing I didn't want to cut out alcohol cold turkey. I just wanted to be able to drink like a normal person. So I think I struggled with giving it up for so long because I didn't want to give it up. I wanted to give up the alcoholic behavior, and that's impossible for me to give up. I get to Hawaii and I lived there for 4 months. The first 2 months I drank maybe once every 2 weeks, and that was the first time in years that drinking was actually fun again. I wasn't drinking that much, and when I was drinking with my roommates, and I hadn't had that social drinking experience in a while. So I will say, like, it did trick me because I did kind of have fun. I felt like, oh, I finally found the balance. Some of my friends came out to Hawaii to visit. I met up with them on Kauai, which was an island that I wasn't living on. I was living on Oahu. They're on vacation mode, and they're also not alcoholics, and we all had a group chat. I remember like somebody mentioning like, oh, we're just gonna drink every day and just be on the beach every day, and it's just gonna be so fun. And I remember thinking to myself, I am gonna drink every day with them. Like, there was no question about it. I already anticipated it. I knew I wasn't gonna be able to stop myself, but I had this fear because this is a few years into my drinking behavior. I'm starting to know the patterns, and I'm starting to understand myself a little bit more. And I told myself, like, dude, you're gonna go out there and drink every day, and that's gonna set the momentum for you to start drinking every day again. And that's exactly what happened. I came back from Kauai back to Oahu. I had 1 more month of living in Hawaii before coming back to the mainland. I get back to the mainland, I come to Florida, which is where I'm at right now. My intention was only to be here for a few weeks, and I'll talk about that later on. But either way, I've been here for about 8 months now. And the first 5 months that I was here, my behavior from Oahu, that last month of drinking every day, just followed. I was drinking every day the first 5 months. The first 2 months that I was here, I was really indecisive about my plans, about what I wanted to do, if I wanted to travel, if I wanted to stay here with my family. Like, I just had no clue what I was doing. So the first 2 months I lived with my mom and my little sister, and there were moments that my little sister, who's 14, she told my mom that, like, she was afraid that I was gonna die because of my behavior. Like, I wasn't trying to hide my drinking. She really saw me drinking every single day, and I didn't even care. And this is what I mean by I have I have no control over alcohol, because the most important person to me, my little sister, her telling my mom that couldn't even get me to stop drinking. Instead of like being rational and telling myself like, dude, Grace, the most important person in your life, is terrified. You're being a horrible influence. You're being a bad role model. You're not being a good big sister. Instead of like snapping out of it and being like, oh, maybe I should stop drinking, I decided to take initiative to find a place to rent, which is the place that I'm living at now, just so that way I could drink in private, because I couldn't stop. I couldn't stop for her. And honestly, that's like what hurts me the most, is like admitting that I couldn't stop for her. But I know that that doesn't determine like my love for her. Like I know that that is because this is an addiction. But that's been really hard for me to swallow. Like, I didn't care how I was affecting anybody. I think like once I moved out and I just was by myself, I was like just sitting with my thoughts a little bit more and realizing like my reality a little bit more. I just started reflecting on like all the ways in which my drinking behavior has affected people. Up until that moment, I never thought about it. Or if I did think about it, like I didn't want to accept it, because I just was embarrassed by my behavior. So instead of thinking about it and accepting my reality, I would just drink, you know? I started isolating myself. When I isolate myself, I don't talk to my family. So there's been moments over the last few years that I haven't talked to my family as much, just because I was embarrassed by my behavior. So that probably hurt them, me pulling away. I have become like very aggressive when I drink. Like 9 out of 10 times when I drink, I'm aggressive, like mean, which is very weird to say out loud, especially on YouTube, because it's not like you guys have seen videos of me being that way. But I'll just tell you guys some weird ass stories. Like, well, actually, like there's like different type of aggression that I've given off. I can either be like super mean with my words, and I've done this with like an ex-boyfriend before. And I've also done it with my parents, just out of being defensive. Or like physically, I've never fought anybody, but I do some weird shit like that's physically aggressive. Like one time this guy pissed me off, I threw a beer at him. One time this guy pissed me off and I threw a burrito at him. And it's kind of funny, like imagining like little me drunk throwing a burrito at somebody. But in the moment, like I walked away from throwing that burrito at that guy and I was just like, I don't remember throwing the beer at the guy. I was blacked out for that, but I do remember throwing the burrito. And like that's just embarrassing. Like it got to a point where like I was nervous to go out and drink because I didn't know how I was gonna behave. But that didn't stop me from drinking. Like I just was nervous. But like, yeah, I've done some really weird shit. So that's kind of like, I guess, like a little time lapse of my drinking years. And the ways I've tried to justify it, the ways I've tried to have control, the ways I like just progressively lost control. Like I'm pretty neutral right now, but you guys, while I was in those years of drinking, I felt so hopeless. I think like I kind of compare this experience with my experience with self-harm. Like I said, self-harm, cut it cold turkey. But that wasn't like a substance that I could physically crave. It was more like a mental craving, where alcohol is like a physical craving. And it has been much more difficult to like stop. I guess now I'll just like kind of share like why I decided to get sober, because obviously I've just expressed so many years of having no desire to get sober, where you might be thinking like, okay, so why now? I'm also thinking the same thing, like why now? Back in December, or actually back in November, that's when the idea of getting sober popped into my head for the first time. And I thought to myself, on my birthday, December 3rd, I'm not gonna drink for 1 whole year. And then December 3rd came around and I was like, fuck it. I'll wait, I'll do it on January 1st. That's a more even number. And that's alcoholic behavior, pushing off like your sober date, making excuses to keep drinking, finding events and occasions to push off your sober date. The last few weeks in December, I was kind of feeling anxious about January 1st because I know how alcohol itches underneath my skin, like I told you guys, and I was anxious for that feeling. I knew I was gonna crave it. I was gonna be thinking about it all day, so I thought. But January 1st came, I woke up, and it was like the temptation just completely left me. I was very confused. Like I said, it took me about a week or two till I started going to AA meetings. And once I started going to these meetings, not only did I realize how normal all of my irrational thinking was, but I also heard that it's not that abnormal for the temptation to just leave. Sometimes, well, this is just what I've heard, and like from my own personal experience, sometimes like when you're so desperate, if you are like calling out to your higher power, or like asking your higher power, whatever that may be to you, to me, I just like call it the universe. Oh, here comes the rain. If you're calling out to your higher power, asking for help, and like acknowledging that you're powerless to alcohol, I think that's what got me to the point where this temptation was just lifted. Because those last few weeks in December, with that anxiety that I was feeling, I was just praying. I was like, universe, please prepare me for what I'm about to take on, a whole year of not drinking. Like, I really want to do this for myself, to prove to myself that I don't have a problem. Remember, I told you that's kind of how I was thinking. So I'm like kind of just desperate, because like I wasn't really that confident that I could do it, but I wanted to do it. I swear, you guys, I woke up on January 1st, no temptation at all. Pretty much the entire month of January. I think on my 33rd day sober, which was in February, that was the first time I thought about alcohol. So this sounds so weird, but for 32 days, I didn't miss alcohol. That was the most bizarre feeling, the most foreign feeling to me in years. Day 33 rolls around, and for about 4 days straight, all I could think about was alcohol, and I'm like, oh shit. And I think like somewhere in that time frame, with the combination of going to meetings and just like observing the way I was feeling, that's when I came to the conclusion that like I'm an alcoholic and I can never go back to drinking. And no matter how hard it is, like those 4 days that I said I couldn't get out of my mind, no matter how hard it is, I can't give up on myself, and I have to try to stay sober for the rest of my life. Because I started thinking to myself, what's my intention? To stay sober for 1 year just to go back to drinking every day? Because that's what will happen. And I was just being really like honest with myself, and I don't want that for myself. I want to be healthy and motivated, and I want to have a family one day, and I want to be a good person. I want to be somebody I'm proud of, not somebody I'm embarrassed by. And so that's why I've decided to stay sober, probably forever, hopefully, fingers crossed. I actually said this at a meeting last night. I just like had a truth that I wanted to let out. And so my truth was, I've noticed in meetings, people relapse, and they're welcomed back into the meetings because we're human, and everybody in these rooms just understands the feeling of being powerless to alcohol. And so if you relapse, you're welcomed back into these AA meetings. Like, no one's gonna judge you or shun you or turn you down or any of that. And this is just one of those tricks that my mind was playing on me. It wasn't something that I actually wanted. I was just thinking to myself, like, it's only a matter of when I relapse, because I know I'll be welcomed back into the rooms. And I had to like admit that, not only to myself, because I've admitted it to myself that that's fucked up thinking, but I verbalized that at the meeting last night. Not that those people are gonna hold a knife to my throat and like threaten me to stay sober, but just knowing that other people know what's going on in my head and what I'm struggling with, it's kind of giving me this sense of accountability to keep showing up to the meetings. But I also had mentioned, like, I'm kind of justifying this idea of relapsing, one, because I'll be welcomed back in, but two, I feel like, this is what I'm telling myself, stupid thinking, I'm only 24, I can afford to fuck up a little bit longer. I accepted the fact that I have been fucking up for a few years, and I just told myself, I can keep fucking up. Like, what the hell? Why would I want to continue to fuck up? I don't actually want to continue to fuck up. That's just this disease, like, trying to suck me back in. And I've learned that through these meetings. I am so beyond grateful that somehow I got into these meetings, you guys, because I don't think I could stay sober without them. I know I couldn't. Like, I have learned so much through going to these meetings. Just to like update you guys, because like I told you, I've been in Florida for like 8 months, and if you've been following me, that was not my initial plan. I have decided to stay here till the end of the year. I've heard multiple times like it's not really encouraged to make major changes in your first year of sobriety, and I can't afford to slip. I feel really motivated and confident that I will stay sober, but I also want to remain humble. I don't want to get to the point where I think I'm above this disease. Like, I've had that feeling in the past, and I don't want to get to that point again. So I just want to follow the steps and do what's kind of encouraged. And so I decided to stay in Florida for my first year of sobriety. I did want to travel and explore. Remember I told you guys I was thinking about getting a van? Like, I really wanted to do that, but I realized like I just have to customize my traveling experience with what I'm working with right now. And so my goal is to do like a little mini road trip every month. This month I went down to Key West. I think next month I might go to North Carolina. I've always kind of been open on social media about things I've struggled with, like depression, self-harm, suicide, all of that shit. And I feel like this was just another struggle that I wanted to be real and honest and open about. If there's anything else that you guys might want to hear on this topic, let me know down in the comments. Maybe I'll do like a Q&A related to alcoholism where I just answer your guys' specific questions if I didn't, cover it in this video. I don't know. But I also just want to say, like, whether you're struggling with alcohol or literally anything, like, it doesn't even have to be an addiction. If you're just having a bad day, if life is being weird to you today, like, I'm just sending you some love, and I'm sending you some strength to get through today. I hope you guys enjoyed this. If you did, please thumbs it up, and I will catch you in my next video. Bye.